What's up, guys? This is Dan for BladeReviews.com, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Zero Tolerance 0550, a very, very cool knife. Of course, this is the collaboration between Zero Tolerance and Rick Hinderer of Hinderer Knives. So let's start things off with some very quick specifications and then move on with a review. The 550 has an overall length of 8 1/8 inches. It's got a 3.5 inch long blade and it weighs 5.8 ounces. So before we get too much further along, I just want to say that yes, this is a heavy knife. If you're the kind of person who really, appreciates a very light and slim, pocketable EDC type knife, the 550 probably isn't going to do it for you. So that's okay. I know there's plenty of people who like the heavier knives, myself included. So we're just going to move along with that already kind of out of the way. So the first thing I want to do is a couple quick size comparisons. I've got a Benchmade Griptilian here, and I've also got a Spyderco Paramilitary 2 to show you as well. So you can see the 550, it fits right in there with these two classic folding tactical knives. Let's take a closer look at the blade here, and the 550 sports a nice modified drop point blade shape. You've got a good amount of belly and a high flat grind along with a little bit of a swedge here. Another hallmark of this blade is just its thickness. You've got 4mm thick blade stock, and it tapers down to a pretty impressive tip. If you run your fingers along the edge, not on the edge, but just above it, you can feel that this knife carries a lot of thickness, and it actually gets thicker as you get towards the tip. I never advocate using knives to pry with. They're not pry tools, but if you were in such a situation where you had to use a knife for that, I might recommend this 550. It really does have a pretty stout tip, and I think it could hold up to a lot more abuse than your typical EDC knife. Steel on this knife is S35VN, and this was a steel designed to be the successor to S30V, which don't need to talk about, but it's one of everybody's favorite high-end steels for pocket knives. And so S35VN had some high expectations. It's kind of interesting because there's something of a controversy about this steel. Some people aren't sure if this is really what it's cracked up to be, and with that in mind, I decided to thoroughly test and evaluate this steel. I've used this knife a lot. I've sharpened it multiple times. I've gone out of my way to try and cut wood, plastic, tons of cardboard, paper. I've done some food prep with it. I've really tried to get a firm understanding of this steel, and my thoughts are that it's very, very similar to S30V. I don't claim to be a metallurgist or a real connoisseur of steels, but I've had my hands on a number of knives at this point and can pick out the differences fairly easily between different steels. To me, S35VN, it sharpens fairly easily. It does hold a nice edge. It seems to be very tough. I haven't had any issues with it chipping out or anything along those lines. And of course, the corrosion and rust resistance is very high. One last thing I wanted to mention about this blade is that one of the caveats to having such a thick and stout blade is it's just not going to slice as good as, I don't know, say something like this Para 2 that's got a very thin grind here and the thin flat grind. This is a much thicker knife, so if you're going to say slice tomatoes, don't expect to get paper thin slices out of this thing. It's just not really designed for that. Okay, let's move on to the handle here, and what we have is a black G10 scale over a full stainless steel liner, and then a beautiful thick piece of titanium here for our frame lock and other half of the handle. This is a really attractive design to me. It's got flow-through construction with some nice beefy and decorative pillars. You've got a liner that has been painstakingly milled out to lighten this knife up as much as possible. I think that's really cool, and 5.8 ounces really isn't bad considering. Of course, the handle here, the titanium slab, is just beautiful. I love the way they put this together. Fit and finish is top-notch. Another great zero tolerance knife and handle. Ergonomics are quite good. You've got this large finger choil, and it takes your index finger, your pointer finger quite well, and you've also got a thumb ramp here that has been given some pretty coarse jimping, but it totally works. If you press down, your thumb stays in place. Mission accomplished, so it's quite nice. And in this kind of grip, and this forward kind of basic utility grip, the knife feels very comfortable. It fills the hand well. It is kind of a large handle, and it's kind of boxy, but I don't feel it cutting into the palm of my hand or anything like that. In reverse grip, the knife performs flawlessly. You can see here it's got a great shelf for the thumb. It really takes to the hand. I think that it absolutely excels in reverse grips too. The pocket clip is the same clip that you'll find on a zero tolerance 0300 and 0350. It's also the same clip that you'll find on a Kershaw Skyline. Now I know that's a bit of a turnoff for some people, but for me I think this clip is fine. It's actually quite stiff, which is good for a heavy knife like this, and it rides fairly low and is still easy enough to get in and out of your pocket. The other thing that I like is the fact that they have drilled and tapped this pocket clip for 4 corners carry, so you got tip up, tip down, right and left side. Lots of options. I really do like that. Rounds out the handle pretty nicely, I think. Deployment is accomplished via these ambidextrous thumb studs. They're large and they're well placed. You can flick the knife open without any issue. Deployment isn't the fastest on this knife. It is kind of a big, thick, heavy blade, and it takes a fair amount of force to get it going, but you can see there I don't have to use any wrist action, and I'm able to get decent performance from it. It's also very smooth. Part of that is due to some large phosphor bronze washers, high quality, low friction washers. Always nice to see on a high-end knife like this. Lockup is accomplished via a ultra thick titanium frame lock. That should be fairly obvious, and what I really want to show you though is how nice and early this knife locks up, even after being flicked open and closed hundreds and hundreds of times. I typically don't do that with a frame lock knife. Most of them really can't take it, to be honest with you, but I'll tell you, this 550, I can flick it open all day and it won't budge a millimeter. This is literally the way I've got the knife. It is, if it's broken in, it's been just an imperceptible amount. It's really, really, really well done frame lock here, and it's quite impressive to me. One last thing I wanted to call attention to was this Hinderer lock stop or lock stabilizer. It just prevents you from overextending this frame lock when you're closing the knife. I like to see it as kind of a cherry on top of this sundae of knife awesomeness. This thing really is quite cool. I love pretty much everything about it. Yeah, it's a little heavy, and at 200 bucks, it's not the cheapest knife, but this is a case where you really do get what you pay for. Premium materials, an incredible design, rock solid tolerances, a beautifully done frame lock, easy deployment, 4 carries clip, 4 corners clip, all that good stuff that you would expect. And it's been made in America, which I can really appreciate too. So the 550 gets very high marks from me. I love pretty much everything about it, and I highly recommend it if you're in the market for this knife. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review. Please let me know if you have any comments or questions. And take care guys, be safe. I'll be back soon with another knife review.